In 2018, a horror movie came out in South Korea. Found footage style, shaky cameras. A group of YouTubers exploring an abandoned mental hospital live on stream. The movie made a simple promise. Everything you're about to see is based on a real place. That place is real. It's called Gonjiam Psychiatric Hospital, and for over 20 years it sat exactly like this. Empty, rotting, and surrounded by a legend so dark that CNN once called it one of the freakiest places on Earth. Today, we're going inside that legend, and then we're going to show you what actually happened. Here's the story that made Gonjiam famous. Locals say the hospital's patients began dying, one by one, under circumstances no one could explain. They say the hospital's director was behind it. Some versions say she was cruel and the deaths were her doing. Other versions say she was murdered herself by someone or something inside those walls, and that afterward, she took her own life, unable to live with what had happened there. And then there's the location itself. Rumor says the hospital wasn't built on ordinary land. Some say it sits on the graves of soldiers and resistance fighters who died generations earlier, that the ground itself was never meant to hold a building full of the living. Visitors who broke in over the years, and thousands did, began reporting the same things again and again. Doors that shut on their own, whispers in Korean coming from empty rooms, sudden cold spots even in the middle of summer. And one room in particular, room 402, where almost everyone who went in said they felt like they weren't alone. By the time the movie came out in 2018, Gonjiam wasn't just a rumor anymore. It was one of the most talked about haunted places in Asia. Here's where the story takes a turn. Because when researchers actually went looking, through Korean records, local news, and hospital licensing documents, they found something very different from the legend. The hospital opened in the early to mid-1990s. It ran for only a few years. And it didn't close because of murder or madness or curses. It closed because of money. South Korea passed a law called the Water Source Protection Act. It required buildings like Gonjiam to install a new, expensive sewage treatment system. The hospital's owner couldn't or wouldn't pay for it. At the exact same time, South Korea was hit by the Asian financial crisis, one of the worst economic collapses the country had faced. Money was tight everywhere. The hospital shut its doors in July 1996. The remaining patients were transferred to another facility. No records of mass deaths, no confirmed murder. No haunted graveyard beneath the foundation. The elderly owner died the following year. His son inherited the property and simply let it sit. No buyer wanted it. No one tore it down. So it just stayed there, empty, rotting, for over 20 years. Here's the interesting part. Even though the real story is mundane, a sewage law and a financial crisis, the legend didn't fade. If anything, it grew stronger every year the building stood empty. Why? Because an empty building tells no story of its own. So people told it for them. Every creaking floorboard, every echo down an empty hallway, every shadow in a doorway became proof of something darker. Local media ran segments about it. One popular Korean TV show featured the hospital's alleged hauntings, and that single broadcast sent the legend into overdrive. Within a few years, an estimated 1,000 people a year were breaking in, despite barbed wire, warning signs, and threats of legal action. In 2012, CNN Travel listed Gonjiam among the world's scariest locations. That single article introduced the hospital to an international audience who had never heard of it before. And then, in 2018, the movie arrived, dramatizing the legend for millions more people. Today, there's nothing left at the site. No walls, no hallways, no room 402. Just an empty patch of land outside Seoul, sold for almost nothing, because no one wanted to build on ground with that kind of reputation. But the legend didn't need the building to survive. It lives on in YouTube videos, in horror forums, in a movie that millions have watched. A story that outlasted the very walls it was supposedly haunting. So maybe the real horror of Gonjiam was never in the hospital at all. Maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe it's just this: how easily an empty building left alone in the dark for long enough can turn into anything we're afraid of. If you want more real haunted places and the true stories behind them from Korea, Japan, and beyond, subscribe, because this is only the beginning.